Hey, Patrick, how you doing, bud?
Not that bad at all, buddy. So we have Undivided. Nice lady, actually.
Ms. Kruse of the great hair, yes. And she's going to give us some status updates on Ms. Katie Wilson, the socialist mayor of the great city of Seattle in Washington State.
Yes. We covered that lady before, didn't we?
Yes,
How is she moving on? She's been elected, what? 3 to 4 months now? Nearly 4 months at this stage?
Oh, almost 4 months. We're at about 120 days. And next month we'll be doing the Mamdani follow-up. We'll give him about 5-6 months to see where things are falling.
Yeah.
New York City.
I always say that about these mayors, just give them 4 to 6 months, kind of settle in, get budgets passed, and settle into the role.
Yeah, the New York episode is going to be super interesting. Super interesting.
Yes,
there's been some shenanigans out east, my friend.
Oh yeah.
Big Apple seems a little rotten, but Ms. Katie Wilson has said some things, and we're going to find out some of the things that she said, and we'll see what Ms. Kruse has to say.
Okay.
We've got some newly surfaced video to share with you. This is going to be the first place you're seeing this video, and we've been waiting for it because we got word that this is several weeks ago now, I think before our vacation, mid-April, that Katie Wilson had said something just insane and asinine about the current business climate in Washington State at a private event. And so we finally have video of it. We'll play it momentarily. But Katie Wilson, I think, the new socialist mayor, is having some challenges responding to tough questions, specifically tough questions related to like the exodus of businesses like Starbucks. I mean, she gets elected to office. One of her first things she did is go out and protest Starbucks and say, I'm not going to drink Starbucks and you shouldn't either.
So there's a bit of a problem with that when an elected official goes out and is protesting businesses that provide a solid tax base for the city. Well, not just the jobs, but the businesses and the people who work at those businesses. It has an ill effect. So the people of Seattle said, yes, we're going to have a socialist mayor. Please help us. And then she does activist things as opposed to doing politician things.
But the sad thing is she's trying to play to her base more than play to the community overall.
Well, she is in her 40s, and this is her first grown-up job. A mayor in a massive city in one of the most beautiful places on the west coast of the United States.
I remember when we covered her before, we went over a bit of her profile. And you're right, this is her first job, or proper job, you would say.
Right. Well, it's her first big girl job. And
it's a pretty big job. It's even when we cover Mamdani, you realize that he's had high-level jobs before he became mayor of New York, for example.
But most of those were activist type jobs.
Yes, but still there were more jobs than this particular mayor, actually, unfortunately.
Well, my friend Patrick McCallum says it looks like she's making a bit of a dog's ear about it. I believe that's the expression.
Yeah, that's the more polite term I use.
Well, what you didn't say was numpty, and I appreciate that. Not numpty, so that's good.
She's definitely making a dog's dinner with this entire economy, because the sad thing is I keep going back to her playing to her base that vote her in, instead of sitting down and looking at everyone within our community or our city and trying to bring in more businesses, for example, to bring up the tax base so they can pay for more services. That's how it normally works.
When you play to the activists, you're going to have a huge issue, right? Because then you're not representing the entire constituency, because all of the residents of the city and those who work there and pay taxes because they work there, they shop at local businesses, generating more funds for the businesses as well as for the tax base to make things better for the constituency.
And which you need for any economy, by the way, not just a major city, but overall, from city to county, all the way up to state level. You need to work for everyone's best interests to raise everyone's boat up, as they would say.
And that's not happening. What's happening is that the businesses are leaving. And we're going to see her quick reaction to one thing before Ms. Kruse gets to the next blurb, which is very interesting.
And Starbucks is like, all right, peace out, bye. And so, for instance, we played this clip yesterday where I think it was Cairo 7 confronted her about Starbucks leaving, and she just didn't want to answer the question at all.
Just your thoughts about it, and is there any concern about other businesses leaving?
Because this is a big Starbucks to Seattle.
This is, again, not the subject of our press conference.
So the problem with that is that's an investigative reporter from a news channel who's trying to find out for the people, that city and that county, Kane County, city of Seattle, why it is she has decided to create a situation where businesses will leave.
Yes, I think it's a genuine question. And I'm surprised that she gave such a, I'm not surprised she gave such a, how can I put it nicely, not a really good answer.
Well, it was
term I can use there.
non-responsive. Non-responsive.
Yeah.
When you say, "Well, I don't want to talk about that," well, it looks like you're being disingenuous. That's
Yes,
not.
you can even see the people's face there. That even the cameramen are not a bit impressed by her answer there. Really,
It's not a good look. It's certainly not a good look.
No.
She should say something along the lines of, "We should work with local businesses to ensure
yes.
that there
Or
are
even
more
if she
jobs."
turned around and said, "I don't like Starbucks because X, Y, and Z," it'd be some sort of answer.
The business doesn't hold the values that the constituency holds, or something.
Yes, or something. Yeah.
Right, but even
Makes
when she
sense.
says that, she is not helping those who work at those Starbucks. She's not helping the business owners. And when there is that kind of volatile environment, those businesses will just leave.
And the problem is the knock-on effect of a business leaving is you have an empty premises. And as we know, if empty premises are left idle for so long, bad people will move into those empty spaces.
And on top
we
of
all
that,
know.
they're attempting to charge the owners of those structures for businesses that aren't there. That's the
Yes.
next step. So your businesses fail because you have an unfriendly environment.
Yeah.
You are non-responsive to questions. You don't attempt to solve the problem. And then the people who own the structures get taxed crazy amounts. And then the people who own the structures say, "We're just leaving. And we'll
Yep,
sell it for pennies on the dollar."
Yeah, they declare Chapter 11 and just walk away. And it's just left that entire property, or in some cases, I've seen some cities in the United States, or, well, I'm thinking of some cities even in my own country in Ireland, where you have entire streets empty and no one knows who owns the businesses because everyone just went broke.
They walked away. They walked away.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just what they're doing in some of these places,
And the sad thing
specifically
is,
here.
and that also breeds a place where crime can develop and so on. As I say, it develops into a very bad area real
Right.
quick when
Where you
there's no
end up
one
with
responsible for it.
open air drug markets and all kinds of the offal that comes when those kinds of situations occur.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to answer it either because, she is in part responsible for the 2,000 jobs that Seattle is going to lose. So the event I'm talking about happened at Seattle University. It was the New Progressives, a conversation with Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson and King County Executive Gurmai Zahalai. And so somebody we know went to this and texted us and told us that Katie Wilson had been asked about, the new income tax on millionaires and the reality of capital flight and wealth flight and business owners leaving and the impact that it would have on our economy. I kid you not, this is what she said.
I think the claims that millionaires are going to leave our state are like super overblown. And if, the ones that leave, like, bye.
That's a problem.
No matter what politics you have, the reason why this is a problem, no matter what side aisle you're on, is the millionaires, yes, are millionaires because they create jobs, create wealth, and create labor, or labor hours is the best way to describe economy. Now, when they leave, they take all that with them. I don't think this young lady is smart enough to realize what she just said.
On top of that, those people are going to vote with their shoes. They're going to walk away. They're going to pack up their trucks. They're going to leave. And those businesses and those opportunities for the local gentry, if you will, those opportunities are gone. And it will have more knock-on effects in that there's less opportunity, less jobs, real estate value goes down. It's just you start circling the drain when you tell the people who take the risks to make those deals and making more deals and accelerating the money. All those things are super important. When you remove that ability to do that and they leave, then everyone is more destitute for that having been done.
And that's what she doesn't understand is the domino effect of, say, 1 millionaire leaving. Take an example of 1 millionaire leaves and he closes down 3 businesses, which employ 30 people. Those 30 people, indirectly or directly, employ 5. That's roughly how the economics works. Because I will go down and get my wage and I'll spend in the local shop or the local hairdresser and so on. That's the way economy works. I don't think she quite understands that, even that simple principle.
And as they get paid, they employ more businesses and more services to meet their needs or their desires.
Exactly. So, say usually it's 5:1 is rough the economics. So, for every 5 people, say, working in a factory, 1 person is indirectly employed by those 5 people. It's the easiest, simple mathematical way of showing circular economics at work for the audience, I would say. The sad thing about this young lady is as we keep going back, this is her first big boy job. She's going to absolutely cripple that city's economy before she's finished if she keeps going down this path.
Well, again, she's playing to her audience of activists, and then herself showing activist tendencies and behaviors. And
look,
that's not what the city needs. They need her to do her job and ensure that the budget is balanced and the people are protected as best they can. I'll be honest with you.
When we were doing her last video, we all saw her ads, and she said a lot of great things that played up to her audience or played to the people looking for hope, you would say.
Right, the United Front, the community,
and so on.
Yeah,
because a lot of people get pinned to the collar, and they're looking for a hope, looking for a leader that'll say all the right things, promise them free housing, free childcare, whatever it'll be. What I think a lot of these activists and a lot of these people seem to forget is there's not much things free in this world. You need a tax base to pay for all these things. And this young lady, unfortunately, is not going to be smart enough to fix the tax deficit that is hitting our city at the moment, as we later on will do with Mundami.
Well, and she's in direct conflict with the Seattle PD as well.
And by the way, I will make a caveat here. She's not the only leader of major cities have made this blunder, you would say. That's the problem, is local mayors don't quite understand. They're voting more on popularity vote than actually competence. And time again, you probably notice that same a lot of major cities. Suddenly the budget doesn't balance because they spend money left, right, and centre, and not realising that you have to save for a rainy day, you have to save for services and so on.
Well, there's a point where she's going to run out of other people's money. And she's also forcing direct conflict between local law enforcement and state and federal law enforcement. She's saying, you need to do these things. And the leader of the union of the Seattle Police Union said, we're not doing those things. We're busy rearresting the people you let out of jail yesterday. We don't have time to interrogate federal agents who have, with the federal supremacy clause and jurisdictional space to perform their functions, like, we can't interfere with them. Cool, you say we can't help them? Fine. Okay, that's what you want, but we cannot be in direct conflict with them. We can't stop them while they're performing operations. So on a lot of levels, she's doing really, really strange things.
I think the problem with her is, one, she probably doesn't understand what her role is and the limits of that role. That's probably the best way to describe it. She doesn't understand that she's just a mayor of one city in a larger state and so on. She's just a mayor. She's not governor, just a mayor of a city. That's it.
It's a pretty big city, to be fair, but
it is a pretty big city. Don't get me wrong, but she's not in charge of the entire, say, federal system or the United States.
So she's also in conflict with Bob Ferguson out of Olympia, who's the governor, with some of her policies. She's in line with most of that stuff, but she's missing on some major things, and it's causing quite a schism as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Or she's taking Ferguson's directives and going way wild off the map and being super aggressive about them. It's really interesting which things that she wants to do and which ones she doesn't. Again, when you play to the activists and what you feel is your voter base, that's great. But the problem is it's in conflict with those who are attempting to earn a living, a wage, and then provide opportunities to other members of the city of Seattle.
You cannot be the mayor and be that cavalier about what will be an economic catastrophe for your city and the state. Bye. And also repeating the lie that, oh, it's being overblown, the exodus. The largest donor for Democrats in Washington State, billionaire Nick Hanauer, just said, as we told you yesterday in an op-ed in GeekWire, that every rich person he's friends with is leaving.
That's massive. The leading financier in that state and the leading financier for the Democratic Party said, they're all going. All the people I know that have money, and it's a pretty exclusive crowd, I'm probably sure he knows a lot of them at the country club, they're saying, oh, we're out of here. That's a pretty good indicator. It might be circumstantial, but it's evidencing itself in the amount of U-Haul trucks that are getting the hell out of the state.
Yes, and that is always an important figure, is how well your state is doing. Is there more people leaving than coming in? Is your tax base growing or shrinking?
Or even if it stays the same, what are you getting in exchange for those who have finances and are leaving?
Exactly. And I don't think this young lady realizes that.
It's a bit of an issue, yes.
So don't take it from me. I mean, Howard Schultz, Jeff Bezos, How many AI tech entrepreneurs have come out and say, yeah, we're leaving, we're out of here. So, and we knew that. She said this 2 weeks ago, just getting the video now. It was very apparent that the wealth exodus had begun in earnest. And so for her to sit there and gaslight the audience or maybe lie to herself and say, it's not going to be that bad. But, you know, the ones that do leave buy and laughs about what will be a devastating economic event that for a city that's already struggling. And that's the woman in charge of the city of Seattle right now. Horrifying. So the longer context I'll play the longer clip of what she said. She was talking about, about 10 years ago, this idea that there would be, a wealth tax when people first started talking about it. And she thought at the time that'll never happen. And so her surprise and gleefulness that it has.
It was very, very exciting to millionaire tax pass through the legislature. Actually, one of my early, I guess I would say the first big citywide coalition, big campaign that I helped to run was back in 2017, right?
So the state of Washington has just instituted a state income tax, where they're in the process trying to get it through. They're somewhere in that process. So she's super happy that there's now this millionaire tax that's happening. You remember in February of 1913 in the United States, we instituted an income tax with an amendment to the Constitution, the 16th Amendment.
Yes, you were showing me that. But I don't think she quite realizes if you have those kind of resources, you can move. She's just, you can't tax your way out of a deficit. I'm always saying that. It's a common economic term that these people don't seem to understand is you have to grow your tax base. If you can't do that, there's no point in trying to squeeze blood out of a stone. You're going to end up damaging or destroying your economy by taxing. Because the more tax you put over the system, the less people have to spend within that system.
The bigger picture is that in 1913, when the tax went in, it was a 1% tax on those who made over $3,000 a month, which in 1913 is a massive amount of money. But by 1945, it went up to everyone is paying 77% in taxes. Everyone, not just the 1%, because once it's in law, then they can just reduce the amount of money that makes you liable to pay an income tax. So when states and cities and counties and they institute these taxes, they just lower the bar. Well, it's only going to be for people who make over $1 million. Oop, we're not getting enough money. We're going to lower it to 750, 500, and then everybody is paying the tax.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not against taxation if it's spent wisely. But the big caveat here is there's only so much of a tax burden you can put on your population before it absolutely cripples your economy. That's what she does not understand.
Well, she's just looking to take. She wants other people's money to pay for her programs.
Let's use California, for example.
Oh, here's a good one.
Nearly over half of what you take in is taxation now. So for every dollar, you pay 50 cents, roughly, isn't it, in tax?
So I am currently stuck with my state and federal income tax at approximately 53% of my income going out. And that's before that's before sales tax, that's before property tax, that's before all kinds of other district taxes that I have to pay. So I'm thinking I'm at just over 60 cents on the dollar that comes in is going out. Either I spend it on something that I need in my household or for resources, gas, heat, electric, water, sewer, whatever, those things that I have to run a household. So I'm keeping 23% of my monies to do with what I want that aren't necessary beyond the taxation. It's a lot.
And that's why when they turn around and say California is fourth largest economy in the world, that's fantastic. But how much of that money is actually being spent wisely, that tax money?
Well, there isn't enough oversight between our state agencies. There's a lack of transparency. And with that lack of transparency comes the ability for fraud, waste, and abuse.
This young lady doesn't quite understand this. Say she went up to, say, California levels of tax. Just use that as an example. People pinned to the collar like that will either do one or two things. They'll sit there and suffer, which most people under a certain income level will, or they'll just pack their bags and leave, which California, by the way, is experiencing at the moment in a big way. There's 50 plus other states you can move to where
I would say
taxation is better.
49 other states and territories, actually, but yeah. Get the
Yes,
point.
but I'm just saying there's tons of options. Doesn't even if you go farther afield, you could just cross over the border to go to Canada, or you could go fly to Europe, or there's tons of different options when you have a certain income level. Where guess what, you're not going to be paying that much tax.
Right,
in
you're
a lot
not
of
bound.
places.
You're not bound to the geography of the space. You can vomit out.
You can leave.
Get on out
You
of
just
there. Oh, yeah,
leave.
for sure.
Yeah.
After Trump got elected for the first time. We ran a campaign where we were basically pushing the Seattle City Council to pass an income tax on high-income households, knowing that that was going to be legally challenged because we have this, big history in our state of.
So New York tried to do the same thing, and they're ending up with a pied-à-terre tax now, which is a tax on those who don't reside in the city of New York, but have residences there.
By the way, that's an old French law, French tax. I looked it up afterwards. The French were smart enough to get rid of that nearly well over half a century plus ago. 1950, 1950. They had that tax up to 1950, and they got rid of it. Because guess what? It absolutely, after World War, little upset in World War II, they had, rebuild their economy, and they wanted people to start spending again, and so they got rid of a raft of different taxes just to, supercharge your economy, which, by the way, is a great idea. If you cut taxes, it will supercharge your economy. And it's a strange concept in some parts of the world.
Because people are entering into contracts with each other, and they're moving business, and they're getting things done.
Yes,
for sure.
There's more money in your economy. It's like supercharging your economy. It's brilliant. It's worked many times through history. But I do not understand this obsession with an awful. By the way, I'm not just picking on this young lady, but we're looking at Mandami later on. But you cannot keep kicking the rich people. I know it's a great headline, but these are the people who are oil in your engine of your economy. These are the people who open businesses, take risks, build houses, or open business. You know what they do? They're people you need to keep in your economy.
They provide the goods and services and places and things that people want to do or need to have available to them so that they can live. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, exactly.
1930s court decisions saying that you can't do a progressive income tax. So, and that was a measure that passed unanimously through the council and then got tied up in court. So, and at that time, the idea that you would have the state legislature pass a progressive income tax was pretty far-fetched. So it's just really, really exciting about 10 years later to see that actually happen.
So she's super excited about taking people's money. We're super happy that we're going to take people's money. That is not a thing that you should be excited. You should be excited about contracts and movement of business and positive things, not we're going to fleece you for money. That's why Brandi Kruse was saying you can't be cavalier about that. It will be catastrophic.
Like, there's a lot to be said for, say, our tax system, say, in Ireland. I'm going to use our example, where we give large multinationals big tax breaks because we understand this. They'll come in and say, I'm going to use Apple, for example, 5,000 plus jobs because you get a massive tax break. That's the only reason they're here. We understand that. We're not naive. But because we give them a massive tax break, they create those jobs, who create another tens of thousands of more jobs on top. We understand that you have to cut taxes sometimes in order to drive business into your economy so you can grow it. It makes common economic sense. What this young lady is talking about is absolutely shooting her economy in the foot.
Well, and she's gleeful about it. We did this thing. That's amazing. We're stealing your money. We are awesome. We are morally upright.
Don't get me wrong.
We are the best.
As I keep saying, I'm not anti-tax. I understand that we need to tax people in order to have people like firefighters and ambulances and so on. I understand all this. But this young lady is talking about taxing the people who are creating the jobs so you'll have money in your economy. That's what she doesn't quite she's not connecting 1 + 1.
Well, again, it's a progressive income tax, which means the more you make, the more you pay. But if you think that they don't have smart CPAs and lawyers and accountants to get over
tons
those
of tax.
things.
Look, there's plenty of tax loops. What this will affect is anyone earning less than 100,000 a year. That's who mainly always gets hit when you talk about these type of taxes.
And they're already stretched as it in.
They're already pinned to the collar. We all understand the cost of living is going through the roof at the moment. And now she's talking about adding another couple of percent tax every week out of their paycheck. It's absolutely ludicrous.
I think the claims that millionaires are going to leave our state are like super overblown, and if the ones that leave, like, bye.
People clapping, puke. Doesn't that just? It gives me dread. And these are
See how many people are inside that audience?
There was quite a few in the building, yeah.
No. Just scroll back a tiny bit there. I know we normally don't do this. Now pause.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's the whole audience, by the way. That's the audience that she's playing to. She can't even. The people who support can't even fill a small little
auditorium. That's a little auditorium, yeah.
Yeah, a little 150 maybe.
Maybe 200, yeah.
Yeah, there's 40, maybe 50 people there at most, by the looks of it.
But they're super happy and they're clapping. They're certainly happy that rich people are going to pay some taxes. But the problem is if they get to a place where they're going to have to pay the taxes and the consequences hit them, they will be very unhappy.
Yes, and that's what they don't quite understand.
Hey, Patrick, I'm successful. I'm going to pay more money. Doesn't feel right.
Yeah. No, it doesn't feel right. Now, you can imagine some of those people now clapping, don't quite understand what they're clapping at. They don't understand that tax will trickle down to them sooner than later. Definitely sooner.
It'll come for them. Just like the 16th Amendment.
Yes.
Not great.
Doesn't that just, it gives me dread. And these are well-to-do people who have time to go to a political event at Seattle University, probably sort of the blue hairs who are out there at the No Kings protest, clapping. How do you think, Katie Wilson, socialist, you're going to pay for all this free, quote-unquote, stuff that you want to give people? What do you think the tax base is in the city of Seattle? It's insane. I mean, that's someone that fundamentally doesn't understand the impact that this will have.
So it's the businesses that are on the up end. It's all of the businesses that earn any kind of profit. And then those people who are also working at those businesses that pay taxes, and now they're paying a personal income tax to the federal government, and now a personal income tax to the state of Washington. And that she's gleeful it feels hateful. Come here and be successful so we can take your money. Not a good deal. I don't want that deal. That's horrific.
No, why would you have that deal? If you have if you have those millions in your bank account or in assets or whatever, you're going to sell and just move.
Yeah, if you have the latitude to go, you will do it.
Don't get me wrong. I fully understand it. If I had 5 million in the bank and I realize that if I stay here another year, I'm going to lose 20% of that, I'm gone.
Oh, for sure. Out of town. Next county, next state, next country over if I have
in my case, it'd be next country. But over in the United States, you just go to, say, the likes of Texas, for example.
Set up your headquarters in Delaware and then move the rest of it to Texas. And there you go.
Yes.
Easy peasy. I got the money. I'm out for sure.
Yeah.
Even though it's so widely acknowledged, even though one of the biggest Democrat progressive donors in the state is saying it's a catastrophe and a stupid idea, that she doesn't understand it and she would cheer it on. Not only that she doesn't understand it, she would cheer it on and say, oh, bye, it's a good thing. Bye, good thing that we're losing 2,000 jobs from Starbucks and they're going to Tennessee. Bye. And what is it? We got 3 more years of that?
Yeah, she is absolutely unhinged if she thinks that's a good idea. That is...
Not only is she unhinged, she's very, very naive. She comes across as a very naive person. Or... I'd be very interested to see what type of advisors she has, economic-wise. We actually should have looked at that, actually.
Well, it seems naive, and it feels as if she's disingenuous and she's disconnected from reality.
Yes, but normally most of these mayors usually have a very interesting advisory board behind them.
So that'd be right. So that would be the city council that advises the mayor on these things. And a lot of places in the United States, your city will have, or counties have a board of supervisors, cities will have a city council, and then the mayor will be one of the individuals who's on the city council. Let's say there's 4 of them, they'll rotate into the mayor position over the 4 years of their term or whatever. So But
Yes.
bigger cities have a mayor, and that mayor is the mayor, and a city council that supports them, like the cabinet for the mayor.
Yeah. Yes, pretty much like most major countries, or in this case, cities. But this lady is absolutely either she is getting very bad advice, or she's getting good advice, or just not listen to it. I don't know which. We really have to look into that, actually.
Well, again, she's playing to her base, her voter base. Right?
Yes, I understand she's playing to her base, but common sense surely should tell her that this is not going to end well.
Yeah, it will not end well. And in the next 3 or 4 months, we'll probably do another one on this one and see what's going on with it. But it's looking like
that's
we're
going to be interesting.
circling the drain a little bit.
Interesting one.
All right, we'll let Brandi finish.
Absolutely insane. I don't know how Seattle recovers from this, and I don't know how it navigates what is going to be a very tumultuous time for the city and the economy with that woman on the 7th floor of City Hall.
There you go.
Yeah, she agrees with me. She actually agrees with me.
There you go.
Yeah.
Anything else for the good of the people, Patrick?
Just be careful who you vote for. It's probably the best advice I can give people.
That is wise and sage advice. All right, for Patrick McCallum, I am Alex Johansson. Like, ring the bell, subscribe, and help us beat the algorithm for the A&P Gents.